as I think you can see, I've recovered well, and in fact, just took off the last bandage off of my ear. I just got it off. I took it off for this group. I don't know why I did that for this group, but that's it. I think that's it. I hope that's it.
Folks, it is a Mar-a-Lago miracle. Less than 2 weeks after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, his ear appears to have magically healed itself. Check it out. While the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, was visiting Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump was seen not wearing his bandage. So in the span of a few days, Trump went from wearing a DIY maxi pad at the RNC to wearing some band-aids to nothing. And just to be clear, I'm not denying that the attempted assassination happened. It did happen, and political violence is completely unacceptable. The issue here is that Trump's lies surrounding the shooting and his reluctance to release medical records are causing many people to doubt the extent of the damage. For instance, 2 days after the shooting, Ronny Candyman Jackson told serial plagiarist Benny Johnson that the bullet took the top part of Trump's ear off.
Is he missing a piece of his ear?
Yeah, a little bit at the top, yeah. And,
Really?
you know, it's highly vascular. Yeah, that's right. That's what he did. He tell you that whenever he first happened? He's like, that's what he told me too. Yeah.
The Netflix adaptation, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is weird because if we look at photos of Trump's ear on July 26th, just 13 days after the shooting, his ears look fine, and they look fine here, and they look fine here. I mean, Trump was even showing it off to Netanyahu during his visit to Mar-a-Lago. Looks completely intact if you ask me. You can also see his ear later that day while speaking at Turning Point USA. No missing part of his ear, no damage, and no scabbing. And now, MAGA looks like even bigger idiots because they wore those bandages at the RNC in support of Donald Trump for a wound that appears to be non-existent.
Did you see the FBI today apologize? I said, well, it might have been a bullet, but it might have been glass. So really, where did the glass come from? Or it might have been shrapnel. Where did the shrapnel come from?
I'm gonna discuss this more in a bit, but the FBI never said it was glass. Trump is the one who keeps bringing it up, which makes you wonder, why? The more that Donald Trump talks about the shooting, it creates even more skeptics, especially when you remember how he originally described it. Immediately after the shooting, Trump posted on his Twitter knockoff Truth Social, "I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt a bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening." You'd have to be a fool to take Trump at his word, especially when photos from the shooting would indicate that there was almost no damage to his ear and very little bleeding. But leave it to Trump to go from saying that the bullet ripped through his skin to bragging that he took a bullet for democracy.
They say, he is not for democracy. I took a bullet for democracy. He didn't. And I might have taken it because of their rhetoric. I might have taken it because of their rhetoric. Who knows?
You sure about that?
The crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. Get them out of here, please. Get them out. Are you from Mexico? Are you from Mexico? Oh, this is amazing. So much fun. I love it. I love it. We having a good time?
He's even bragging about it on Truth Social. "The Biden-Harris administration did not properly protect me, and I was forced to take a bullet for democracy. It was my great honor to do so." So now it's a great honor to get shot at? Are you kidding me? This guy had a family doctor say that he had bone spurs so he could dodge the Vietnam draft. Trump is a serial liar who lied more than 30,000 times while in the White House. So it's not surprising that this narcissist isn't being truthful about his injury.
I do want to ask, just because the president talked at length about it, he said the ears are the bloodiest part of the body. There was a large volume of blood. He made note of that last night. Is that true?
No, I heard the same thing. I was watching as well. And, I don't know what anatomy textbook him and his docs are using, but that struck me as a bit nonsensical.
Trump said it ripped through his skin, except according to the doctor who treated his ear, no stitches were needed.
Former president was treated at Butler Memorial Hospital. He did not require stitches.
When I heard the call, you're thinking worst case scenario.
Dr. David Rottinghouse says his staff coordinated with the Secret Service well in advance of the rally.
And since Trump hasn't released medical records to the public, it's caused many to wonder what the long-term effects will be, especially as cognitive function is already an issue for Trump.
Missed penetrating his skull, but actually impacting the surrounding tissues, in this case his ear. That's what we're being told. That's serious, Alex. I come from a military background. Right? That predisposes in some cases to a traumatic brain injury. Over time, we may not see initial symptoms up front. There could have been signs of bleeding. that maybe were not present on that initial CT scan that apparently was normal per whatever report we got, that summary report. There's a lot of potential impacts here that can impact his functioning if he's the next president, to his balance, to his hearing, again, that can manifest over time. So this is a big deal. Tangential gunshot wound. If this was indeed a bullet injury to the ear, this is a big deal. Tangential gunshot wounds, we see them again all the time in the armed forces. They can have secondary impacts.
This is a valid concern. If you're running for president and were just hit by a bullet, the American people deserve to know the extent of the damage.
The kinetic impact to the body from that type of bullet, from an AR-15 style weapon, is massive. So if that was really a bullet injury, it should cause significant soft tissue damage. I want to say it would be helpful for the American public to understand what was the degree of injury. Were they able to control the bleeding without stitches, just to confirm what Eric Trump is saying? What was that process like? Did they use things like Dermabond or Steri-strips to help? It would be helpful to understand the extent of injury, absolutely. And then did they do a cranial nerve, full neurologic exam? Is his hearing and his balance, are they intact? We don't know.
So as more people started asking questions about the shooting, Trump's BFF Ronny Jackson issued a medical report, or rather a letter. Oh, and just so you know, Ronny Jackson is not Trump's doctor, nor did he treat Trump after the shooting. I mean, the guy doesn't even have a medical license anymore. Ronny Jackson, aka the Candyman, was demoted by the Navy for running a pill mill in the Trump White House and sexually harassing female staffers while under the influence. Remember, Trump only hires the best people, amazing fraudsters, the greatest liars and scammers. And if you want to protect yourself from fraud and keep your identity safe, make sure to check out today's sponsor, Aura. Just the other day, I did a quick Google search of my name and email, and the amount of info that was publicly available was unsettling. My full name, home address, phone number, relatives, it was all out there. If you didn't know, data brokers sell your information to scammers, spammers, and anyone else who may want to target you. That's why I've been using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests for me. Cleaning up my information not only helps reduce the amount of spam I get, but it also protects me from hackers who could use this information to help them access my social media accounts, bank accounts, or other sensitive information. I don't know if you saw this, but AT&T revealed that over 73 million customer records, both existing and former customers, were released on the dark web. They recommend those affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, and consider credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. Well, Aura does all this for me. And best of all, I don't have to download several different apps just because a company couldn't keep my data secure. If my info was compromised in the AT&T data breach, I wouldn't worry, because Aura is always on, always doing the hard work of keeping me safe. I value my privacy, and I value yours as well. You can go to aura.com/Gabe Sanchez to start your 2-week free trial, also linked below in the description. That's aura.com/Gabe Sanchez. Anyway, in the letter, Jackson went on to describe Trump's injury, how the bullet made a 2-centimeter wide wound, and how there was a significant amount of bleeding. But if we look at the photo of Trump from the rally on July 13th, there's no significant bleeding, and there definitely is not a 2-centimeter wide wound. See this blue tape on my ear? That is 2 centimeters. That is how much damage Ronny Jackson said was done to Trump's ear. And when we look at a close-up photo of Donald Trump on July 27, there is no damage to be seen, let alone damage that's 2 centimeters in length. And just for reference, a penny is 1.9 centimeters. So you're telling me that Trump had a 2-centimeter wound, and then 7 days after that letter was sent, it just magically disappeared?
Right.
Ronnie's making it sound like Trump has Wolverine-like healing powers. Ronny might want to lay off the old sauce. But more importantly, why is anyone taking Ronny Jackson at his word? He's not only not a licensed doctor, but he's also not the doctor who treated Trump after the shooting. The last time that Ronny Jackson told people that he was a doctor, he was drunk at a rodeo where he threatened to beat up police officers and then was put in handcuffs. The last person that anyone should be listening to for medical advice is the Candyman. But this whole thing got flipped on its head when FBI Director Christopher Wray made this statement before Congress.
With respect to former President Trump, there's some question about whether or not it's a bullet or shrapnel that that hit his ear.
Now, the FBI would clarify this 2 days later by saying what struck former President Trump in the ear was a bullet, whether whole or fragmented into smaller pieces, fired from the deceased subject's rifle.
This is absolutely ridiculous that he would make a comment like this. This degrades any level of credibility that this man may have had after years of weaponizing the FBI and the DOJ against the president. It was absolutely a bullet. I examined it. It was the track of a bullet. It was scooped out in the just as it would be in the track of a bullet. It had the telltale other damage that is associated with it. All the surrounding tissue in the ear was swollen and edematous. His ear looked like a wrestler's ear when it was fat and swollen, and that goes along with the trauma from a high-velocity bullet as it passes through tissue. That's a hallmark of a gunshot wound, is that the tissue outside around the bullet track is also traumatized and damaged, and that would not happen from a piece of glass or even from a fragment.
My money is on a fragment of a bullet that hit Trump's ear, not a whole bullet, especially since Trump's ear is back to normal. Ronny Jackson getting this upset over Ray giving his testimony tells us that there's more to the story that Trump doesn't want people to know. Also, we know that Ronny didn't see the bullet hit Trump's ear, and if we're being really honest with ourselves, Ronny was most likely drunk at the rally, so any medical assessment done by a guy without a medical license is invalid. Again, I'm not denying that the attempted assassination happened. It's the fact that Trump has lied and or exaggerated about his injury that has many people asking questions. Ronny even issued another letter to attack Ray's testimony by saying, Congress should correct the record as confirmed by both the hospital and myself. Director Ray is wrong and inappropriate to suggest anything else. Okay, sure, as soon as we see the medical report from the hospital, because I'm not about to take the word of a drunk sexual predator who gave away drugs like candy in the White House. Trump also had a tantrum on Truth Social saying, a bullet that hit my ear, and hit it hard. There was no glass, there was no shrapnel, the hospital called it a bullet wound to the ear, and that is what it was. Does anyone else find it weird that Jackson and Trump keep mentioning that glass hit his ear? I mean, Ray never mentioned glass in his testimony.
There's some question about whether or not it's a bullet or shrapnel that hit his ear.
Oh, and FYI, Christopher Wray is a Republican who was appointed by Donald Trump, so it's only fitting that Trump would attack the guy that he hired. The major concern here is that there could be way more damage than previously thought, and if Trump truly has nothing to hide, then he shouldn't be concerned with the public seeing his medical records. Unless, of course, Trump is trying to hide the fact that he was actually hit by a bullet fragment and that the damage to his ear wasn't as bad as he made it sound. But like usual, Donald Trump is the one who got himself into this mess. He had to exaggerate the details, he had to lie about what happened, and he had to make it sound worse than it was, as if getting shot wasn't bad enough. And because of that, it's looking more suspicious, especially as people keep asking the question, why hasn't Donald Trump released his medical records? Well, that's all for me today. Thanks so much for watching, and feel free to follow me at I Am Gabe Sanchez. What Was That is made possible by viewers like you, and if you'd like to support the show and help us grow, you can contribute to my Patreon at patreon.com/IamGabeSanchez. Thank you for your support. So until next episode, I'm Gabe Sanchez, and this has been What Was That?